Today's webcast is going to begin by talking about the world that we're in today. For those of you who are millennials, it may not seem like the world is moving super fast, but for those of us in a little bit older generations, we recognize that things are moving very, very quickly. And we are now in the middle of the fourth industrial revolution. I'm not going to spend a ton of time today doing a lecture about the principles of Industry 4.0, but just enough that hopefully we can understand the background of why it is that we're talking about the importance of being able to leverage data and to be able to utilize not only physical and cyber and Internet of Things in very, very remarkable and very efficient ways. The first industrial revolution, as you can see from the screen that's being displayed, goes all the way back to 1784. Not long after the founding of our company did it come that entrepreneurial people figured out that we could use steam in order to be able to help in the production of things. Back before that time, it was not very common to have a closet of clothes. You might have the clothes that you wore and maybe something else, but with the automation of looms through the process of steam, it made it to where it totally transformed even the way that people thought about our apparel. In today's world, we think about running to the store and buying a pair of jeans or whatever it is. It wasn't so much the case in those times, for sure. The second industrial revolution occurred just under 100 years after that, and I think that this was the first that we would think about utilizing assembly lines or linear assemblies, and this was done primarily in meat packing and stuff, so the ability to be able to process and to deal with the processing and distribution of foods was certainly a very transforming kind of thing in the world that we live in today. Again, it was almost 100 years before there was the next, what we call the third industrial revolution. And all of us know a little bit about that because that's what we've been living in, you know, since the 1970 times forward, to where there was PLC logic and PCs and abilities to communicate from one machine to another, and just to do some really unbelievable things. And I think all of us can agree that programmable logic and computing has transformed the way that we do a lot of things over the last several years. What's interesting about this fourth industrial revolution is that it is the shortest cycle from duration of one revolution to the next. So if the third industrial revolution started in 1969-70, here we are already in the middle of the fourth industrial revolution. Often it's true that we don't even know that we've entered into a new revolution until we're a significant way through it. But there are people, there are companies, there are entrepreneurs that are thinking and looking at what is possible to be done, not what it is that they're doing today, but what's possible, and bending those barriers. I only make the remark about the difference in time because I believe that technology and revolutions are coming at us at a faster and faster rate. And so we have, you know, a few opportunities. We can pretend like they're not happening and see how it goes. We can try to be out on the bleeding edge of those before maybe it's become clear exactly what is possible, or we can be right in that very center point to where enough time has passed and enough things have been brought together that it makes sense for us to embrace. Now, a lot of people would look at the principles of Industry 4.0, and we'll get into what that is in just a moment, and to say, wow, it's impossible. I can't retool my entire shop, or I can't throw out all the technology that I have and start over. And we're certainly not suggesting that that even has to be the case. But I do believe we can all do this. If we have an understanding of what the fourth industrial revolution is and what the principles are that are the underlying factors for how to be in the fourth industrial revolution, we can let our decisions going forward guide us and to be able to measure those against those principles. The fourth industrial revolution is a combination of physical products, the intelligence and data, and the Internet of Things. When we even consider for a moment the number of devices that are now available to be utilized within the Internet, it's pretty amazing. It wasn't a very long time ago that people carried around these mobile devices and actually used them for phones. I think many of us would agree with that those devices today have become almost as complete computers and do a wide range of functions that almost in some cases replace even what's being done on PCs. And so some of these principles, I believe that we can take even not only from a freestanding, but on its own. It was always about the automation of things. It was always about the order of things. It was always about the control of things. And so in this fourth industrial revolution, we're going to be discussing primarily today how we can help you, or even from the just principle of things, how you can make decisions within your business to be able to leverage data in the most effective ways. We have been focused in the woodworking industry for far more than a decade, and we've seen trends come and go, programs rise and fall. But there is one thing that I believe is very true about many in our industry that makes it quite unique over almost any other. When we look at other industries, we might see some that are very much SKU driven, to where they don't require a lot of changes, and even those that do, we might even think of as only moderately custom from our world, to where basic, simple kinds of things might change features and options and colors and maybe even size. However, I think we can recognize that we are highly configurable, highly custom in what we do. So many of our customers need not only to have technology to help them with the configure to order kind of things, to where in configure we might be suggesting that something common such as a cabinet might change in a variety of fashions, such as numbers or shelves or finished ends or height, width, depth, or colors or door styles or whatever it is. A number of configurations and combinations of those can be quite enormous. But even the configure to order side of the business is only a portion, and we also need technology to be able to help us with engineer to order when we're going to be dealing with monumental or custom one-off goofy kinds of things that have never been created before and likely may never be created in that same kind of way ever again. We couple that with the fact that we must, in many cases, have very inventive ways to be able to bid on contracts of things that we don't have time to engineer and may have never produced before. So we have to figure out how we can come up with numbers that are both profitable yet allow us to obtain business. And then once we've reached that business, we have to figure out how to configure it, engineer it, and get it to the floor, not to mention the steps of needing to be able to deal with field verification and site kinds of complications to things for not only the data, but also then the ability to produce those things. And so in today's webcast, we're going to be doing this as an example for you of what would be possible to be able to extend the data of CAD/CAM both forward and backward in operation. The reason that we've chosen to utilize the OpenSQL database of the CAD/CAM solution is because when you really get to thinking about if you're not going to have multiple databases that are islands of information, if you're going to leverage that information, what is it that has the most accurate form of data? In years past, some companies, especially those that had grown nicely, thought about the implementation of ERP systems, and when they did that, they had their own configurators and their own databases and all this kind of stuff. When people thought about automating their estimation process, they would have systems, database, spreadsheets, whatever it is, that are doing calculations for commercial values. When we recognize that we must do the submittal, shop drawing, engineering, and manufacturing process of things to generate G-code, cut lists, bills of material, all those things, we have more data. So the most common element and the one that is the most accurate, that goes the very furthest in all the things that need to be done, is the CAD/CAM database. And so today we'll begin in just a quick second with a concept of how to bring takeoff from paper markers and scales into an electronic form so that takeoff can be done on screen, and that the data from an on-screen takeoff can be utilized by a CAD/CAM system with the power to be able to calculate materials and time, capacity, and a number of other things, to be able to change it from quantitative values to commercial values so that we can come out with an estimate. So that means if we've taken our engineering database and we've added that kind of information to it, now the value of it grows. As we work through the process after getting the business in order to be able to configure and engineer it and send it out to the floor, then we're also going to show how to extend that same database information out for planning and tracking and sorting and kitting and eventually shipping and many other great features. So I'm going to leave that as the description of what we're doing today, and I'm going to open up the first technology that I want you to be aware of and able to view. And so I'm just waiting for it to show that your screen has made that move. Give me just a moment. Yes, I believe it has. Please do be patient. Once in a while, even with the great technology of Citrix here with the go-to webcast, not every click that I'm making happens in real time for you. We will be recording this webcast, and we'll send it out to those that registered and are attending so that you have an opportunity to be able to go back and view what's going on. In today's session, I won't be doing a full demonstration of any one product, but we'll be showing you as an example what can be done and how that data can work all together in some pretty, very, very, very impressive ways. So what you might see on your screen is a set of architecturals. I began just a little bit of process of doing a small amount of takeoff already for these, just so we weren't watching me do the same kind of clicks over and over. However, it's very easy to be able to do. We have a database of woodworking conditions that happen to match the US library that we have for our WoodCAD CAM system. And so very easily I can just select on something that I want to be able to do. And so in this case, I selected a one-door upper in this case. I have some additional things that I need to take off, and so I'm going to take off some two-door uppers. So realistically, all that I am doing is I am counting the conditions that happen to be on display. So this system allows you to import a PDF, a TIFF file, whatever, bring it into the system, scale it, organize it the way that you want, and to be able to quickly do takeoff. After we have clicked, in order to mark up all that we have, it gives us a result that amounts to the quantitative amounts of conditions that have been done for this. It can be cabinetry, it can be countertops, it can be molding, it can be die walls, it can be anything that you want. But what it's doing is coming up with the quantities of these that are within this project. And so that makes it a really fast and nice way. By the way, our customers tell us that moving from printed out sheets that they are using scales and markers and jotting down this quantitative information, that they're able to do 3 to 4 times the amount of projects that they could in a manual way. So if you're not doing that, you might want to consider doing so. We have some clients that take this data and drop it into spreadsheets or other kinds of information. In this webcast, we're going to be focusing on how we can take this information and utilize the WoodCAD CAM system and its calculations manager in order to be able to work. So from my import folder, we have a couple of layouts. If we went and looked at any one of those, we would see the items that are listed between those, their quantities, all of those kinds of things. So we could look at it from either one of those that What I'm going to do, just as a brief example today, is I'm going to go click on and tell this SQL database that I want to report on it. We're using Microsoft Reporting Services, and that I want to come out with a quantity survey. And so I am moving from the thought of just counting something to the actual principles that are to arrive at the prices that we want to be able to calculate in this. And give me a second to see where that went behind. Just want to be able to grab to it. Okay, so my report went behind my system there for just a second, but we're back on it. One of the great values of this is not only is the WoodCAD CAM calculations manager capable of calculating all of the material requirements, which could include the sheet stock, the edge band, the hardware, whatever it is, it also has the ability to calculate for you very precisely all of the machining operations that are taking place within this. So when you actually put a hole in something, whatever, it knows what that is and adds to the time that you're able to set up. So instead of just having a CAD CAM or a design software that's helping me with drawing some pretty pictures or getting out some stuff and maybe making CNC code, it is possible to be able to have a system that is configurable to a degree so that what you are doing through automated takeoff could then be harnessed in order to be able to come up with the actual values that we want for estimation. One of the other things that I might point out in case it's not clear, many of our customers appreciate not only being able to get a generalized bill of material and cut list off of this. So because it's coming into the system, it's coming in and being able to calculate and know all of those sizes and values for it. We have some customers that are either dealing in exotic materials or special laminates with long lead times that in some cases they're needing to begin to order materials even before the project is engineered. How scary is that? If it's a long lead time laminate or something of that nature, yes, I realize that I got to buy it because I got a short window, but I don't want to buy too little because if I buy too little, then I'm not going to be able to hit delivery. I don't want to buy too much or I'm going to waste all the profit on the project. So by utilizing and pushing this forward into the CAD CAM system, we're now able to more precisely estimate the actual amounts of materials that we're going to need. So anyway, that's a quick example for you of that side of things. Also want to give you a couple of additional. We want to eventually, as you might imagine, be able to see the difference where we could have an estimate versus actual. And when I say actual, it can mean multiple things, but I want to have an estimate versus what actually gets engineered. And yes, the engineering side of things can utilize the same database, of course, so we're going to be making progress. On the screen, what we have is just a small elevation of cabinetry. Hold on, I'm getting a message from GoToWebinar. I want to make sure that everything's good. Give me just a second. Okay, very good. I think I have it restored. Apologize for that. I think it was an internet disruption. So now we're in the WoodCAD CAM interface. We have a small elevation of cabinetry that's been done. You might see the kind of level of detail and things, even the edge band and its radiuses and the hardware and all that kind of stuff are here, precise and ready for us to go. Often we have to be very quick at what it is that we're doing. So I'm going to generate, in this particular case, some fast, what we would call architectural submittals coming from this data. And so I told it to automatically generate for me a plan view, completely detailed, all the gaps, reveals, dimensions, thicknesses, all the lines are absolutely perfect and crisp here in the AutoCAD environment. We're going to tell this that we want it to also generate for us elevation drawings. So we'll select this, tell the elevation symbol which direction we want it to go out. By the way, if I didn't mention it and failed to, I should say that these 2D drawings are linked completely to the 3D model. So when we need to make modifications or field adjustment changes, whatever, all the 2D drawings get created or get altered as well. We're going to tell this that we want to also be able to create, in this case, sectional information. So I'll select the objects that we want to do a section, create a section plane line, and tell it which side of the line we want to be looking at it from, and I'm going to label this section. And so now we have for us the sectional views and all of the data that's associated with that as well. We'll go ahead and place that into the drawing, and we're going to tell this now that we want to do a little bit of stuff. So we want to be able to automate the dimensioning processes for these things. And so in just a few clicks, we're able to have all of this done. Being AutoCAD, we can now load the borders that we might want for our paper space. And so this has been done. As a result, we have the ability to work within the viewports and to be able to link views to this. I'm going to say I only want my elevation to be displayed here. I'm going to tell this that I want to link this only to the plan view. I want to take this and to link it only to the sectional view. Oops, help if I click the button. And finally, maybe we want to work within this and to be able to have the 3D view or whatever it is that you might want to have as display. So we can very quickly be able to do that kind of work, and that's great for the configure to order kind of side of things. However, we need software that can help us with much more than that. I'm just going to give a brief example of something today that I think might be able to be useful to a degree. I'm just going to say I want to draw an AutoCAD shape. I'm going to tell this that I want to go up like 30 inches. Let's go over like 15, up like 15, over like 15, down 45. Even though this isn't super complex, it's at least something that's starting from absolutely nothing. We're just drawing and here within AutoCAD. I think about this as a engineer to order kind of an object. So I'm going to tell this that I want to make an article. We don't just use the term cabinet because the software isn't limited to just cabinets. I could tell that this contour was actually a plan view. I could tell it that it was a side view. In this case, I'm going to tell this that I want this to be the front view of the object that we're going to create. Now, it works a lot like solid modeling. I have the ability to be able to add parts and pieces to the faces that are available for me to work with. I'm going to leave the front empty and put a back on it. And so then we can work on being able to divide horizontally or vertically, whichever we want to do, some objects. So what I'm going to tell this is I want to put a partition in, and I'm going to tell it that I want to lock one of those in 13 inches from the left-hand side. You might notice in the viewer of this, it's offset from the vertical that's above. I can decide that we want to be able to put things inside of these spaces, and so I'm going to engineer this to have 3 drawers that are equally spaced, and I'm going to tell this that I want to work on the right-hand side of this, and that I want to be able to add, in this case, some adjustable shelves to this, just to show you the power of having a software technology that's inherently parametric and makes short work of even the engineering process of things. So you might notice here that this even had the ability to recognize that the space was not even a rectangle. It was an interesting or an odd shape, but it knew what size to be able to make things. That's just a few clicks inside of this, and I'm going to say I don't need, actually I'm going to tell this that I want to be able to save this, and so I'm going to tell it that I want to put it into my library in this case. So if we ever wanted to reuse something like this, you might think that, well, you're never going to do something like that again, and that may be true, but it's also fast. I'm going to say webcast 10.4, and you can give it further descriptions if you would like. But now I'm going to use this right in this engineering project. Now this object has capabilities to do things that we might not think of right out of the gate, but I think is very powerful for us to see and to understand that not only can I change its height, width, that kind of stuff, but I literally could be working with this object and to be able to define for it. I want to just grab a hold of this, and I'm going to tell this that I want to actually edit the original article contour. So now I'm back to the AutoCAD object that I began with, and I literally could even change the shape of an object like this, and it would re-engineer the project for me. And so it gives me a lot of great tools to be able to work with. Just one more little quick demonstration before we move on to things that I think about different than configure to order, but actually engineering kind of applications that we might do. Not only field verification, but dealing with certain things. I'm just going to draw here in AutoCAD a shape. In this case, I just chose that I want to be able to create a circle. So you'll see that's all I did was created an AutoCAD circle. In this case, I want to be able to work with multiple parts across multiple products all simultaneously in order to be able to select what it is that I want to be able to get from this. And so I selected a number of end panels across this intersectional elevation. And the reason that I did that was because I want to transfer this AutoCAD element. Maybe I want to think of this as a AV elevation or something like that. And so now I have live machining that is transferred across all the parts of these. So now I could run cord management or whatever it is that I need to do within this specific application. So it makes it really nice to be able to generate this kind of data and to be able to work with it in very efficient ways. I also want to take this and to say I want to save this order as, and I'm going to call this 10-04-16 in this case, and I'm going to tell this that I want to automatically generate the programs to transfer and process all of the data for this, and say that we are ready to go. And so it's doing through the process of validating all of the data, all of the machining, passing all of that information. And in today's presentation, I'm going to be sending that out in form to another product that we'll move on to that is called CutRite. You may be very familiar with it, the world's leading and most popular panel optimizer. Very powerful for those things, but also an incredible true shape nesting algorithm as well. So now we have created the data from this. We didn't have to do it from scratch, and so now we have all of this information available to us within CutRite. So I'll open this up and tell it that we want to be working on a specific project that would be 10-04-16, and so now we'll bring into this all of that information up, where we have other opportunities to be able to even enhance or work with it further if we needed to make a material change or anything like that. In this case, I'm going to tell this that I want to control the behavior of these parts. This can be done automatic, but in today's webcast, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to set so that some parts are going to go to optimization and that some parts are going to go to nesting. Again, this can be pre-configured, but I just wanted to be able to show you that you can also work with it on the fly. So now that we've created the destinations for all of these, we're ready to generate the data for this, and so we'll tell this that we want to go ahead and calculate. And so now the parts that were told to go to the nested base CNC have done, and the ones to go to the saw are done. So we can see it from the number of parts, we can look at it in dashboards, we can also look at it from pattern previews. So these are the patterns that have been created for the parts that have been sent to the saw for those kinds of things in the algorithm. And here are the items that have been sent to the true shape nesting algorithm as well. So all of the machining and processes that we've done for that are now done, and we're sending this data out to any and all known saws or Windows-based saws and any CNC machines that are available in the marketplace. So it's very valuable to be able to do this, and it happens so fast that even some of our customers may choose, in the process of calculating for estimation value, since it made it into WoodCAD CAM, to be able to push this out and to let the algorithms calculate the actual number of sheets instead of using just a waste factor for this. So now that we've generated these work orders and we have data that we can use downstream, we want to be thinking about what kinds of things can we do in order to be efficient in the process of manufacturing. So I'm introducing you now to a product called Production Coach, and we're going to tell it which project that we want to be working with in this particular moment. And this particular project is now available for us to be worked with. So a number of things that we might consider doing. First of all, we've got to plan out our production, right? So we could click directly to this and see that now this project is available via Google Calendar. And so I have this project here and available. So I have drag and drop capability to be able to place it any place on the calendar that we might want. You might notice the legend at the bottom left-hand side of this. It's showing me the status of the projects, which ones have gone through cutting and kitting and assembly and staging, and that's just our operations. You can have your very own for that, but a very visual way to be able to see where things are and belong in the calendar for those. You could look at it from, if you've got, you want to see just what is your trucks or other trucks, you can look at it from different installations. You can look at it from progress. So for example, if I wanted to look at just cutting, now I'm seeing only what is happening within a particular cutting operation. You can look at it a month, a day, a week, or you can even drag across to be able to see. We're even calculating for you based on the demand and your goals for production, how many sheets, products, dollars, whatever it is are happening. So it can be viewed in some very incredible kinds of ways as well. So as we're working across this, we could even drill in and to be able to see the details primarily about this. If there's customer information, of course, you could click a button and it would be available in Google Maps. If you have attachments or documents to the order, you can regulate who can see what as far as those, but it's making all of this information into the centralized data depository work in very, very amazing kinds of ways. So anyway, after looking at the calendar itself, we might also want to look at this from a progress standpoint. We haven't done anything yet, so it hasn't made it through any of those operations, but soon it will. We could even see what's missing that needs to go through different processes or what's been damaged, that kind of stuff. Next screen we might want to be able to see is what are all of the sub-assemblies that we might need to pull if we're purchasing them, all of the hardware and components that are required to be able to do this in production. So those work out nice. There's a number of ways that you can work with the system. You could tell a singular kind of thing that it's changed its status. You could scan a barcode in order to be able to do that. You could multi-select. So for example, if we said, hey, I want to take this and change the status of everything in this order, like I'm done with it, then we would see that status change. If you happen to have a HOMAG or Holzma saw with a power touch control and feedback, it can happen automatically as the saw is processing the work order. So those things can happen in real time as well. So now we see in this order that it's made it through cutting, that we're at about 20% of our work order status, so that can be really nice. We can also look at our factory from a business intelligence standpoint and to be able to see all of the parts and things that are going between the operations, so we can see exactly how many are happening and being processed at a particular station. And we're also managing or reporting for you the balance of the workflows so that we can see the number of objects between each of the stations in order to ensure that we don't run out of materials or get into a bottleneck kind of situation. And we're also managing the quality that is occurring. So if we're creating damaged parts and those kind of things, that might not be good, but we're getting able to monitor that and to be able to see across all of our ongoing or live projects what their production status is. Again, today is only a brief overview of what's possible to be done, but I wanted you to be able to see a few of these things. I'm going to close out for just a minute and reopen the same in a different environment. The reason I want to show you this is because after we got parts coming off of certain lines, it can be important to be able to sort and to be able to process how they might get ordered in order to be prepared for assembly. So let's say that they've come off of the saw and they're coming off the edge bander and going through the CNC and different stuff, and so we're inspecting them. It would give us the ability, and by the way, I'm going to be scanning some barcodes, so if you hear the sound, you'll know what it is. I scanned the first one, and it optimized this rack, and it told me, as the operator, to place it in bin number 2. In this example, I'm going to go ahead and scan some additional parts. They would not be in this order if we were doing this live, but just so that you don't have to listen to me scan a million barcodes, we will work this way. Notice that when it turned to 10 of 10 parts, that it turned green. So again, in the bottom left-hand side is the legend for this so that we could see that this means it's ready to assemble. So what does that mean? If we were looking at this from a reverse side and we were the person in charge of pulling from the bin in order to assemble, we know now not to pull from bin 13, 14, or any of the others that are gray, that only all the parts are there for the bins number 1 and 2 as we're moving across. Other great features that you can do, for example, I could tell this that I want to add a secondary rack to a thing and say that now I've tied these two together. You could report a damaged part. You can do just a huge number of things that are really helpful in the process of being able to work with this. I'm going to move back for just a moment to another configuration that I think will make this make a lot of sense. If I'm utilizing a different type station and I scan a part label, so in this case, when I scan a part label, it's now going to go find the order that it's associated to. It's going to select and find the part that it's related to, highlight that part, and give me a visualization of this object. So whether that's so I've got assembly instructions, or maybe I've got a problem. In this case, I'm going to tell it that I've got a damaged part. I could give it a reason why that it's been damaged. That could create automated alerts, as you might see on the right-hand side of my screen. I can now make real-time decisions about what I want to do with damaged parts, how it's been resolved. Everybody be able to know exactly what is going on in the process of working with this, even down to giving me detailed information, such as here's the WMF view showing me all the machining and operations that have been done. In addition, from this kind of a deal, I can also say, hey, I want to be able to hide certain objects. I can tell these that I want to be able to move it around so I get great visualization, so the floor knows everything that they need to be able to work with this, including all of the hardware and those kind of things as we're moving across. What I want to show you next is what I'm going to call allocation for this. So after assembly, many of our customers want to have a pre-storage or a layup area in their factory before it goes onto the truck. I've got one available because it's green. I'm going to say A001. I'm going to select this and tell this now. So everybody knows where that order is being staged. So it becomes obvious in the process of being able to work together for that. We might also have some customers that determine that they want to put certain things on a pallet. We could generate, for example, kits for this. And so I'm going to say that these are part of kit number 1. In this case, if I clicked on the button for this, we would see that we're now able to generate a label for this particular thing. I'm just going to tell this that I want to make this 1, and now I will tell this to overwrite, and we'll view this. So what I did is I just generated a kit label. So maybe you put those products onto a pallet, you shrink wrapped it, click this button, and it generated a label. You stick it on. So now the shipping person would only have to scan the 1 kit label in order to be able to count all of those products onto the truck as well. We would also give you the ability, of course, to be able to multi-select, and maybe we want to change the status, in this case, to shipped. Again, this can be manually done, or it can be done in such a way that barcode scanning is the method for all of this happening. Bear with me just a quick second. Very good. I'll change the status here of all of these to shipped, and then we'll go look at our report. What this is going to do is ensure that everything has made it onto the truck. Because it's been scanned into the truck, we now have electronic verification of all of the items that have been placed into the truck. So I'll select this and say, please generate the shipping report. So now we see that we had a quantity of 5 items. All of them have been scanned on. We have no back orders. Everything is good. So now we're ready to invoice as well. Again, this has been a very brief demonstration of what's possible to do within the system, but I wanted you to be able to begin thinking about the ability to harness the data that you have from a configured order and an engineered order CAD/CAM system, and to be able to utilize that upstream into takeoff and estimation, and downstream even into manufacturing and other kinds of functions. But, you know, we still have other things that we may want to automate in our processes, such as the purchasing, the receiving, the allocation of materials, the checkout, the capacity planning, the timekeeping, all of those things. If we have the right CAD/CAM system that can help us do 100% of the work we do, both configure to order and engineer to order, and we can harness that open SQL database, we can do many, many things that follow in the principles of Industry 4.0. I'm going to pause at this stage and look for the questions that you might have for this. So the question is, will the presentation be available after the webcast? Yes. Once it's over, I will stop the recording on it. We'll process it to make a video, and we'll upload it to YouTube and to send out a link for this. So hopefully that's possible. The question is it possible to use a different import software? For example, we're using Bluebeam, blah, blah, blah. Sorry, I didn't mean that in a rude kind of a way. It is possible for us to be able to configure and import. WoodCAD CAM has a specialized way that data must be configured going into it. We're actually in the background converting what is a simple CSV file into a properly structured XML file. And so, Brian, we can think about doing those things. Questions, are there shops in the country using OST and WoodCAD CAM together? Oh, yes. Yes, of course. Question, how will an order information update in Production Coach when an engineering change is made mid-production? So that would not, that would be a one-directional thing, Brian. And so if we needed to be able to do an update or an addition, sometimes we call that a change order for it, we would process as a separate production order or merge that separate production order in with this one. But that's a really, really good question for sure. Okay. Okay, how much? Really, I can't get into commercial type things today. There's a number of factors that affect how much that things cost. For example, on the OnScreen Takeoff side, numbers of users, whether it's network, the same similar kinds of things. On the WoodCAD CAM side, what are our outputs? Are we supplying the AutoCAD? The methodologies that we might use for integration. On the Production Coach, the number of stations that we might want to have and how they're configured, whether we need the business intelligence dashboard, whether we want to link this, by the way, not only to Google Calendars, but you might imagine to any smart device. So I can have this happening on my iPhone. If I'm a delivery guy, I can click one button and to be able to see not only the address, but drive it right down into Google Maps and to get turn-by-turn kind of things. If I'm the installation crew, I could not only see what I'm supposed to do, where I'm supposed to do it at, but even signal the system to let it know that I'm done with a particular installation in the process. Okay, just a second. Yes, WoodCAD CAM is an AutoCAD based, and so it does require full version AutoCAD. It's actually 2016 AutoCAD. If you already have that, we can plug into what you have. If you don't, we can supply it for you in an OEM form that we support not only with the install, but after the fact as well, and update it and those kinds of things as we're moving along the process. Sorry, just reading. Yeah, I think that gets to most of the ones that are not commercial in nature. I can tell you this much. There, at the end of this webcast, it should pop up for you just a quick survey. If you would, please answer those. I think there's only like 4 questions on it, and help us understand where you are in the process of adapting, or whether you believe in the principles of Industry 4.0 and how we might be able to assist you. So please take a moment for that. And anything that's related to commercial values or needing help from a salesperson, those kind of things, we'll get in contact with you if you've indicated those kind of things in either your questions or your surveys. I really appreciate you spending the time with us today to understand just a brief glimpse on what we're doing. Please do bookmark the website for www.rogershaw.com. We have another webcast coming up yet in the month of October that is going to feature specific production coach, and we will go through in much more detailed fashion all the things that are possible for you to do to be able to help you manage the production that you're dealing with, even those custom in nature. So I believe it will be a very good one, so you might want to be looking forward to that. Again, I thank you for your time today. It is much appreciated. Those of you who are customers, we greatly value you for sure, and those of you who might become, we look forward to having a long-term partnership together. This will conclude today's webcast. Again, thank you very much. Take care, and God bless.